On this episode of Audiobook Club, we pay tribute to the hardest woman in the world.
One afternoon, after a meeting, I was sat at the bar having a cup of tea when a bunch of men in black coats came strolling in, all shifty eyes and shiny shoes. I recognised the type, all gangsters and young hangers-on. An elderly man came over to me at the bar and said, "Excuse me, that's my seat." It wasn't his seat. I had been there for nearly an hour reading a book. I looked about the near-empty bar and said, "I don't think so, go sit elsewhere." The men that flanked him and surrounded me all stood still and stared me down. The older man leaned over and said with a growl, "I'm Mad Frankie Fraser." I looked him right in the eye and I said, "I don't care if you're Mad Frankie Howard, I'm not getting off this fucking seat." He was silent for a second, and then he burst out laughing.
Hello and welcome to Audiobook Club, the podcast about audiobooks that, like a wilting flower, recoils at a heckle and knows that it's probably not a good idea for it to attempt a stand-up set in the East End of Glasgow. Joining me to talk about Janey Godley this week, Matt Layton. Hello.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So Janey Godley, what a life, and you're not so familiar with Janey as probably out of the two of us. I'm probably a little bit more familiar with her.
No, as we were talking before recording this particular episode of Audiobook Club, before doing what we're doing right now, I said to you, we're about to walk into an editorial minefield. Because I don't know if you know this, Steve, but Scottish people don't really like English people.
It's a stereotype, but do carry on.
No, they genuinely don't like us. I mean, obviously, as the conquering power, we don't necessarily care very much, and we don't really notice. It's a bit like Canada and America, isn't it? The smaller country to the north that's all upset about the cultural imperialism, and we're sorry we didn't even know about it. I'm very lucky that when I was 20 years old, and living in Germany, one of my pals over there, known as Scottish Alan, he's so Scottish that he actually went and worked for the Scottish Tourist Board in London to try and redress the balance. He let me know pretty early on that he didn't really like me. And we've been fast friends ever since. But yeah, as a Londoner and a sort of poshish male middle-aged one, I know that we have to tread carefully here. I really don't think we would do a stand-up routine in a pub in the east of Glasgow, would we? You
often hear about comedians not from Scotland, and they say there's one venue in Glasgow, and I can't remember what the name of the venue is, but they say if once you've done that venue, you can do any venue at all. I think Ken Dodd might have said something along the lines, I might be misquoting the wrong comedian here, but the response from the audience was, "Well, it was okay if you like laughing."
Yeah, there is we're definitely not doing the accent on this one. We've got to be very, very careful. So yeah, this week we're doing Janey, the woman that wouldn't shut up. Sorry, I apologise. We're doing Janey, the woman that won't shut up. This is a book that you've brought to the table, Steve, so I'm going to ask you to do a lot of the heavy lifting. I obviously have been away for 6 of the last 7 years, which I haven't really encountered her because there's no, when it's 40 degrees outside and it's Friday night, you'd rather sit in your garden than watch an episode of Have I Got News for You? So I didn't really encounter her when she reached that level of fame. So I came to this completely cold. So we're going to do our usual 3-stage thing. We'll talk about the author, we'll talk about the book, and then we'll move on and see if the audiobook adds anything to or brings anything to the party, adds something to the product. Does it make it a better experience? So I'll start with the author. And as I said, I'm just going to do the top and tail on this one, Steve. I'm going to do when she was born and when she passed away. And then I'm going to let you fill in. You know, like they say that on gravestones, you normally get a year at the beginning, 1974, then a little dash, and then the date that somebody died, 2024. And actually, all of the important content is in the dash. So I'm going to do the numbers, and then I'm going to let you fill in the important bit in between. So Janey Godley Curry, born 20th January 1961, was a Scottish stand-up comedian, actress, writer, and political activist. She passed away on the 2nd of November 2024 at the Princess of Wales Hospice in Glasgow. So there's your bookend, Steve.
Thanks. Here's my dash. Here's my dash text. So, and I'm going to come at this really from very much a personal perspective. I don't profess to be an expert in the detail of her life, but just my experience of her as a person and as a comedian as well. Just extraordinarily funny. And I brought this to the table because obviously she's very much on people's lips at the moment because she was incredible. The way we'll start from the end first. Just amazing the way she brought cancer to the conversation, how she was dealing with it. And I saw accompanying this book, there is a documentary which you can still see on the BBC iPlayer. I think it's been done by BBC Scotland, called Janey, which she alludes to in the book here. And the number of times you sort of either hear from her or her daughter Ashley, it's not like you see on other TV shows. It's not like you see in the movies about when this happens, and this documentary really does just kind of shine a light on how it is for people with cancer to go through the treatment. And it's often talked about, and I remember Danny Baker also said a similar thing to this when he talks about in his books and also on the radio, when he said, you're not fighting cancer, you're not battling cancer, you are in fact a battleground for science to do its thing, and you're kind of hoping for the best and going through the process and just in the hands of science. And something.
Do you know what I thought of that very quote? I think Danny Baker says you're just the battlefield, as you say, and he says it's the doctors who are fighting the disease, and you're just the battlefield. I think that's what it was. But again, yeah, she did a great job of you're not brave. I think both of them also said you're not brave. You're just getting on with it and trying to survive day to day, and the actual fighting is sort of a natural force beyond your control. They both say that, don't they? Exactly.
It's more of a tabloid newspaper thing to say, battling and fighting and all the rest of it. That's what you read about in the news when you read news stories. They battled it, they fought it, and or are fighting it, and so on. But
I've got a slightly wonky knee at the moment. I'd just like to say how brave I am battling it.
You are, yes. Well, we all wish you the very best in your recovery of your knee. But maybe just a brief period of elevation and some peas is probably the treatment there. But I'm no doctorologist, of course, so I don't really quote me on that. I tell you what, though, in terms of the bravery, in terms of how to deal with it, she went on a stand-up tour, and. They always say, don't they? If you're, there's no greater feeling than being on the stage and getting a standing ovation or getting appreciated by the audience, and it's like a drug in itself, isn't it? Which may have been part of it, but actually, just incredible what she did. And I did see her. I did see her back in February on her Not Dead Yet tour. So I'll talk about that in just a moment. But sort of going back in time, and how I became aware of Janey Godley was. I mean, in the traditional way, really, listening to Radio 4 panel shows, when I sort of hear, Nicholas Parsons, on Just a Minute way back when saying, here's, on my left is Susan Calman and Janey Godley. And you knew what you were getting. The first time I heard it, just devastatingly funny. They just come out with a line that just is a complete zinger. It just really hits the bullseye. And then the next time you hear that they're on a panel show, you think, oh, good, they're on it. You know what I mean? And so you want to listen to that episode again. And very much like that. And then, of course, going through, going down.
How long has she been doing that kind of stuff? How long has she reached since she reached that level? Because I'm reading stuff about Have I Got News for You, and you've mentioned the radio stuff that she did. How recent by your guesstimation, is that? Is it in the last 2 years or in the last?
No, much longer. Yeah, much longer than that, I'd say. I mean, really guesstimating here. So if there any are, real sort of dyed-in-the-wool Janey Godley fans, I'll obviously keep it right. But probably around 10 to 15 years. Okay. Probably more towards 15 years, maybe a touch longer. So there you go, it's a rough ballpark for you.
Okay.
But
so I'm looking at the contents of the book and that you and I both read in full. And so she worked in a pub until she was 1994, and then she decided she wanted to be a stand-up comedian. So her career began then, but the big points on the graph seem to be in 2014 when she stood outside Donald Trump's golf club with a card, and in 2021 when the pandemic was on and she became famous for overdubbing Nicola Sturgeon's press conference, COVID press conferences. You're saying that as much as those are the big ones that had an impact, you were aware of her before that? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, she was very much a staple of, certainly on the radio initially. I never saw her stand up at all, but certainly on the radio, and then latterly on things like Have I Got News for You, and also there were TV shows as well. She was actually involved in a thing that Channel 4 just did one series of, which I think was called King of Comedy, and it's a reality TV show where comedians sort of train up sort of other comedians to become the king of comedy. So it's like a reality show in a stand-up thing, and there was sort of all sorts of other comedians on there that you kind of heard of. Boothby Graffo was one of them, for example. But she was on that. But so she was always around. And you knew.
Was she on that? And this is my concern. Was she on that as one of the junior comedians who was being trained up, or was she on it as one of the senior comedians who was giving the younger comedians a bit of an education?
I can't remember, to be honest. I think it would be more like the latter. So it would have been her training. I think she'd been. I mean, like all comedians, if you're in stand up and you end up on Radio 4 and you end up on Have I Got News for You, and on it goes. You start off in the pubs, the clubs, and that's where she started. She started by, before she became a comedian, she was kind of the ad hoc comedian behind the bar she ran. She was always shouting out. She loves a heckle, I'm going to say a heckle is either, it's nectar for a comedian or it's hell, it's either one of the two. And certainly, and I tried it. I tried a stand-up comedy course a few years ago. We don't talk they're quite right, we don't.
We buried that in
you imagine, right? You imagine, and it's the most difficult performance you ever do. You're in charge of everything, the lighting, the direction. It's just you, the microphone, and a light on, and you've got to manage everything else. You've got to have your material down. You've got to know that material inside out. You've got to know when to hit the lines. It's not just about what you say, but the pauses when they come in. Comedy is about timing as much as anything else as well.
Timing.
Comedian's tragedy equals timing. No, hang on. No, I can't remember what it is now. Timing plus tragedy equals comedy. Anyway, as you can see, I didn't go much further. But on that course, I was.
I'm not touching it. I wouldn't touch it. There's a lovely thing that people say about it. There's no way I would stand in front of a crowd of people and do stand-up. There's a lovely analogy about yours and my chosen profession, which is there are a lot of shy people in radio because you get to talk to a lot of people while being on your own in a room with a microphone. So you don't actually have to look them in the eyes.
No.
And I think I prefer to keep it that way. I wouldn't have the guts to do what you did with your stand-up endeavours.
No, I knew it wasn't the form for me, definitely. But the people I was on the course with, there were some huge talents there. One of them's doing some films, and he's been on comedies and all sorts of stuff on TV and things. But yeah, it wasn't necessary for me. I like the sanctity of chatting with you. just chatting with you is enough for me. However,
we're not even in the same room as each other. We don't even have to look each other.
Exactly, it's the greatest thing ever from from an introverted social distancing point of view. But she, but Janey Godley has made completely different stuff, and just so she was doing on Radio 4 a lot, and then Have I Got News for You was a big hit there. She did a couple more times, various TV shows. Then she started to create her own content. She started getting involved in dramas. She was becoming an out and out actress. But the thing is that she was constantly working, if you know what I mean. But there are things that kind of stick out that we've just touched on that really got her notoriety. The first one of those being in 2014, where I think it was late must have been late in 2014, because Donald Trump didn't get it.
She did it twice.
Yeah, did she? Oh, right, okay. I missed that. I must have skimmed over that bit. I don't believe it.
Again, the weekly graph of how far Steve got into the book.
Well, no, but I've read it. I've read the whole thing, but it's interesting. Yeah, so she went to Turnberry Golf Resort, holding that sign. Trump is a see you next Tuesday card on there, and just
nicely avoided.
Just her, this week. Just her belligerence and not moving. I'm a Scottish citizen. I can stand on Scottish land. You can't do. She's face down Trump's security detail and everything, holding up that sign, and it went utterly viral, that thing, and so that got a notoriety, and all. But then after that, it dies down, and you go back into doing what you do, and then when COVID hit,
well, no, but hold on a second before we move on, and partly because, as you know, I've got a clip that speaks to this. In many ways, and that was something that got her a lot of eyeballs, I think is the way I would say it. The standing outside Turnberry Golf Club and holding up a sign that said Donald Trump is a... it's an interesting thing that, first of all, if you look at her starting her career in 1994, her first mass event was 2014. It took 20 years for her to become an overnight success.
It's hard work. I mean, she was a huge success before this, so she was very, very well known before this. But this sent her global. This thing, and with lots of plaudits from the States and so on. Well, depending on which side you're on. Yeah. But yeah, this is the thing that took her properly global and viral. Yeah, certainly.
And the interesting thing is, and we'll have a talk about it after this little clip. The reaction to it on Twitter was masses of people on her side, masses of people hurling abuse at her. And she made this brilliant point.
The Trump supporters in America piled on the online abuse too. Although they were really rubbish at insults. That was funny. They'd write, "Your mom sucks." And I'd say, "Mama's dead and you're a cunt."
Yeah. So, as you say,
pugnacious is a word, Steve.
But this is what I love about Scottish comedians. Billy Connolly, Frankie Boyle is another one as well, where they just cut straight to the chase. That's why Malcolm Tucker, in the thick of it, is such a massive hit. Creatively swearing, just attacking back. They don't just.
Yeah, but you see, the problem I've got is that, again, this is me now finding myself in the middle of the editorial minefield, looking around, going, right, what I mustn't say is their humour is so earthy.
Yes, we are.
Such great use of language. So I'm trying desperately not to do that.
Yeah, so we are at risk of obviously, coming off like that. So we've got to be very careful about that stuff. But yeah, she got huge notoriety from that. COVID came along, of course.
Can I just say? And again, because I've had to do that little bit of, a posh white bloke from London goes, very earthy. There is a bit where I would like to point out that I am not being patronising, that actually she built herself a career that I wouldn't, and I'm new to her, remember, and she's built herself a career that I wouldn't dare to dream of for myself, but would love, but don't have the stones to pull it off. As a stand-up comedian starting in Glasgow, as viral internet sensation twice, and as somebody who's written 5 books and a play. It's like those things they're not even dreams for me. And again, now I sound like a patriot. She's done very well, hasn't she? And it's not what I'm trying to sound like here.
She's done it awfully well. She's done well. Yeah, you get that throughout the book. She can't believe the success that she's had. She's just, she never imagined. Keeps saying that, and it's just incredible. So what a life she had. And one thing I'll say, and this is another reason why I've really, she's just amazing as a comedian. She had a real sense of the human condition as well, a real sense of what people are like, her upbringing, her character, her personality. She really sort of understood. She really understood, I don't know, people and how to help them, how to connect with them. I've got 2 examples of that. First of all, obviously during COVID, she went viral because it was a horrible time to be stuck indoors. Comedy was an absolute lifeline. We didn't want to hear, it was a depressing time. Comedy was a massive, massive help. That's why you had programs. I think the BBC have got a list of programs that must be played during times of national crisis and things like, I'm sorry, I haven't a clue on the radios on there. And if I can use for you, must go on air, just to cheer people up. Charlie Brooker did a special antiviral wipe show. He hadn't done one of those for years for it. And this is what Janey Godley did. She was it just cracked you up. The first time I heard one of her Nicola Sturgeon voiceovers was just brilliant, so funny. But at the same time, she wasn't taking the mickey out of it. She was actually reinforcing the safety messages that Nicola Sturgeon was putting out there, but doing it in a sweary kind of, stick my toe up the crack of your ass kind of way, which was fantastic, and it went hugely viral because of it. And then she carried on like that. She was doing animal voiceovers. She was doing all sorts of stuff, and then I saw her. So then we come to sort of latterly, and she was cancelled because of some historical racist tweets that she it was these sort of historical racist tweets, and coming from a comedian as well. And she actually says this in the book. You have to be so careful about what you post, because even if you're joking, even if you're tongue-in-cheek, doesn't come across on the text, and she recognized that. She was she quickly apologized, but it obviously really hit her. It affected her. It also affected her work and so on. She was getting cancelled, and then of course in 2021 she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and this is what really sort of, and this is why I don't I really...
Before we get onto the cancer, Steve, because obviously that's a big one, I just wanted to have a look at her and Twitter. And you and I have a mutual friend who we sometimes who's always up for a scrap, and the expression we use about her is that she wants to fight the fighty fight. And there's a lot of that. You know who I'm talking about, don't you?
Yes, you often take the sting out of the tail by saying that to her face. Stop fighting the fighty fight when she...
Yeah, she doesn't like that.
She very much resents the comments about the Boer War as well that you stick out there.
She's not that old. So the whole idea of it is that the viral internetosphere was good for her. She got a lot of publicity through the stuff she did with the Donald Trump sign and with the Nicola Sturgeon dubbing the daily press conferences. Both of those brought her incredible success. But the thing was, she didn't... There's an expression, isn't there, that podcasters use. We're not senior enough yet, but never read below the line. Don't read the comments because they'll upset you. And rather than just sitting in a corner and crying gently to herself, as I would do, she gets back out there and starts fights with everybody. And I think she mentions it a couple of times in the books. I think ultimately, I don't think that was healthy for her.
No.
And when she did get cancelled, and clearly, I mean, I know what she was doing. So the tweets that got her cancelled were from 2011, and they were sent out while X Factor was on. So she was commenting on the Simon Cowell behemoth at the time, and we know what happened. So that's about 7 o'clock on a Saturday evening. I should imagine she was sitting there with a can of lager, possibly writing stuff that she would have been okay saying in a pub in Glasgow. But ultimately, that cost her her first role in Panto, and the Nicola Sturgeon daily COVID press conferences that she overdubbed actually ended up getting her a contract presenting COVID public information films, and she lost that contract as well. So it's very interesting, this kind of... We all know that social media can be a cesspit.
Is a cesspit, I think, is close. Yeah.
It is a cesspit. Well, yeah, funnily enough, this week... James O'Brien of LBC has come off Twitter, and he's not sure how permanent it's going to be, and moved over to Blue Sky, which is a new platform. And also, The Guardian have stopped. It's not called Twitter anymore. It's called X.
That's it. We always sound like we're 10 years, like we're talking from 10 years ago in the past, don't we?
A computer.
A computer.
I'm proudly. I'm not a digital native. It grew up around me. Look, you've got some chops. In the social media sphere, and we try not to be too toxic. I mean, obviously, I can't help it. It's genetical.
I stopped posting. I just stopped posting. I was heavily into social when it first started, and everyone was nice to each other, and it was a real journey of discovery when Twitter came along. It was just like suddenly everyone can become a broadcaster, everyone can share stuff, and that's how breaking news it changed the world of breaking news. Certainly from the point of view of where I was working at the time, and it was an incredible tool, absolutely incredible tool. But it's also a very democratic tool with a small d, which basically means that with the good stuff you get the bad, and there are people there who really shouldn't be able to broadcast. They all have opinions, no filter, and there's the whole sort of tweeting before you think doesn't exist. A lot of people say it's where nuance goes to die. Basically, is Twitter or /X. So I just.
Do you know what? Strangely, Janey herself is quite wise on this one, and there's a bit in the book where she says, I got a lot of abuse on Twitter, but nobody would say any of that to my face. All the interactions I got in real life were quite pleasant, and she's aware of the power that anonymity and the mob rule stuff gives people on Twitter. But yeah, she says in real life, people in the real world, IRL, people don't come up to her and say negative things. They only say positive things. No, it's a very skewed and very extreme community on Twitter. And if you start to think that this reflects real life, only in recent years has it started to impact real life. And when I say impact real life, we've had, things have drummed up in the news, in terms of riots, in terms of, you could argue that actually in the recent election, Elon Musk owns this platform now, and he's got a certain view. And then, the people have been saying helped win Trump the election, and so these things. So from social media, I just remember my days back in 2007 or whenever it was that I started doing this stuff. It has gone from, and I'll never forget it, people would just sort of go, Twitter, it's just a fad, being patted on the head and all the rest of it, saying, okay, Steve, you just carry on doing this stuff. And I'm saying, no, this is going to be really big, to the point where it may well have influenced an election in the States. It's just absolutely nuts. But it has impacted real life. But, in the main, generally speaking, Janey Godley's absolutely right. Most people would not come up to you in the street and say the awful things they say to you on social. It's interesting when you and I started doing social media stuff. The stuff that I was promoting at the time was quite genteel, and the whole idea was tagging someone who you had interviewed in a radio show and hoping that they would retweet what you do. This week I opened up Twitter for the first time in 18 months, I think, probably a little less than that. But and the top 2 things in my timeline were tweets from Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And I hadn't invited that into my life. And yeah, there's all the concern that, his definition of freedom of speech. It's like the people who campaign for diversity and then, strangely, when they're given an opportunity to enact that in real life, it's all the same people that, it'll be a picture of 5 people from the same area of diversity that do you get what I'm saying here, Steve? Everybody fights for diversity, but what diversity tends to mean to them is, people like me.
Yeah.
Whether, whatever their chosen bracket where they feel there's not enough representation of people like themselves, they just put 5 pictures of 5 people who are like them up rather than true diversity, which is... the idea. You know what? I'm getting out of this one. I can feel I'm treading.
We're straying from the book.
I'm not straying from the book. I feel like I'm walking into another minefield. Again, I don't have the confidence to be as shoot from the hip as Janey Godley was in life and in this book, if that makes sense. You see, I'm hedging my bets. I'm tiptoeing around.
This is
that's certainly something she never did.
This is a real. This is a real tribute to her. This is the reason why we're doing this episode. Is actually a tribute to her. That she was not. It's just how she was. She wouldn't, to us, we don't know what she was like. She does mention in the book frequently.
I think we could take a pretty good guess, Steve.
We can, but we
having spent 5.5 hours with the book, well, I can have a pretty good guess.
Yeah, indeed. No, you're right. But she was throughout that book. She was saying that she would, she'd speak back to them. But she also said that it hurt. It hurt the stuff that people were saying on social as well. So she wasn't impervious to what was being said to her or about her. It's so. But you do have to step back. This social media today is completely unrecognizable from the social media of when I started in 2007 doing this stuff. It's more of a marketplace now. It's not a social thing. You get your content out to more people if you pay. Secondly, it's a cultural schism now. Lines are blurred. What's right is wrong. What's wrong is right. And people you will never hear. I don't know. I'm thinking of like someone who's been extreme on social media. Okay, take Alex Jones, InfoWars, for example. You'll never hear him or any other sort of hater, because hate pays on social media, including YouTube and everything. People will more likely to ingest content that is having a pop at something. Because it makes you more money, and so you will never ever hear someone like Alex Jones, or I think you can think of a litany of people who will ever back down and go, "Oh, actually, no, that's a good point that Joe Biden made." I'll correct myself on that.
That's part of what you and I, the thought behind what we do and how we do it here. There's a thing that you and I talked about called we thought we'd invented a phrase, but we hadn't. But non-toxic masculinity, like non-toxic crayons. It is possible to be nice, and I think maybe. I've been reticent to publish our stuff, use it or promote our stuff using Twitter recently, and I quite like this idea. I mentioned Blue Sky, which is, supposedly meant to counteract all that. I think you and I are probably both a little sceptical on how being nice. A social media platform,
and I don't want to sound sceptical.
I'm going to give it a go this week, and I invite you to join me. To taking our audiobook related bants to Blue Sky. I want to give it a go.
Yeah, I joined last Tuesday.
Good.
I mentioned the show, but our show hasn't got an account yet, so it's just a blank link. So we need to pop it on there.
how are the interactions? What's the mood in the room, Steve?
I got
Blue Sky.
got 2 followers and no one's responded. I haven't posted yet, so it hasn't been.
So a bit like Twitter, then.
Yeah, a bit like Twitter. To be fair, yeah,
a bit like the last 15 years of your career, Steve.
Oh well, I think, to be honest, from it, the jury's out on this thing, because we've had this before when something really offensive to people en masse happens on Twitter/X, and people go, right, I'm off to Mastodon. That was the last popular one that people jumped ship to, which is still going. Blue Sky is the latest one. How long this fad lasts, I don't know. They've got about, last count I saw was about 15 million users. Twitter's got about 300 million users. So whether Blue Sky becomes a long-term thing, I don't know. I don't know, because the thing is, you can either come off it, and we're really straying here. We'll come back in a second. But do you leave? There's 2 schools of thought as to leaving Twitter. Is that you're withdrawing from the fight to go on to a place where people are nice to each other. The converse thing of that is that there's no point in fighting. You need to create another place for more thought out discourse, or a much nicer exchange of views. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Anyway,
here's one that reminds me. Do you remember when former BBC newscaster Martin Lewis, I think before social media happened, he basically set up a company for nice news. He was tired of the fact that all news was bad, and thought it'd be a great idea to do news of stories about people's cats. And frankly, nobody was interested. So yeah, I don't think there's much of a hope, but I'm going to give it a go on principle. Before we go on, Steve, we're coming back to the book. I know your brother was a Janey Godley fan, and he dragged you to see her earlier this year, didn't he? How was on her farewell tour, which gets mentioned in the book?
Yeah,
it's about the point where the book was not published, but she was writing the book in February of 2024 as she was doing her farewell tour. How was it?
Yeah, so I actually sort of saw the advert for it, and just thought, oh yeah, got to go and see her, because by this point I really liked her comedy. I wanted to go and see it anyway, and just to also sort of not meet the person, but see the person, who is doing a stand-up tour in the full face of cancer at its fiercest. I mean, she talks in the book about having, before the first gig, having 2 doses of chemotherapy, either on the day or the day before, just to get a blood transfusion to get her ready for it. And seeing her on stage in February, she looked healthy. She looked full of energy. She was so funny. Just so funny. She did the voiceovers live, which was brilliant. Just to give you an idea of she really reached out, and we've talked a lot about her character and the East End of Glasgow and how she is, and she she gets straight to the point with things with her humour, which is fantastic. But the amount of
hold on, before you do that, and stuff we didn't get to cover, which are in my notes, like her parents were alcoholics, her mother was addicted to tranquilizers, she was abused as a child by a close relative, her mother was murdered. She names both the person she suspects of murdering her mother and her abuser in this book. She got married at 19 to a husband who was, it turned out, undiagnosed autism. Her daughter says of her getting married at 19, "You got married so young that you got kerplunk for a wedding gift." And again, so yeah, she had been through a lot. So this gig wasn't a pity party, is what you're saying?
Absolutely not, and it wasn't pitched like that either. It was, the fact it was called Not Dead Yet just gives you an idea of the tone of it. It was a straight gig. It was very open, very sort of honest about
which I think Not Dead Yet is the name of one of Phil Collins's either recent tours or autobiography. Unfortunately, he's still alive.
Yeah, you've really got to get the the facts right, haven't you?
Clive James was great at that, wasn't he? He said, "Look, I've been talking about this terminal cancer I've got for years. I'm really sorry I haven't gone yet."
But yeah, the tone of this gig was just extremely reflective of the person who was doing it, and she mentions in the book, and it's on the TV show, that she brought her daughter Ashley along, who in herself, by the way, is devastatingly funny as well, and she's got a brilliant Radio Scotland show every Friday night, which she hasn't missed a week since her mum died. She was there the week before, there the week after, and by the way, I urge you, if you haven't yet, and you've got access to the BBC Sounds app, wherever you're listening from, it's the BBC Radio Scotland Friday night show with Ashley Storey, and it was, I think, 8th of November was the date, but it was the first show after Janey had died. And she obviously touched on it straight out of the gate after when the show opened, and then but she wanted to talk about that week's theme, which was food. Tell us your favourite food, give us a call. And she's got a producer called Silent Paul who helped choose the music. The first song he'd chosen was American Pie by Don McLean, and she came off the back of it in stitches of laughter because she went, "Why did you choose that one? It's about death." Yeah,
the day the music dies.
Yeah, she was. There was a lot of laughter on that. But yeah, have a listen to that, because you get a sense of not just Janey Godley, but her family, and Ashley was extremely funny as well. But that evening at that theatre, and to give you an idea of where it was, by the way, I won't say where it was, but I just want to give you an idea of the audience there and how.
Whose anonymity are you protecting?
Yeah, I want you to. It's a game. It's a game, dude. I want you to guess. All right. So right.
Okay.
So here are the clues. This gives you an example of the range of audience that Janey Godley reached out to. With her humour, with her personality, with her stand-up and her performance and everything. Is that some people in the audience had matchmakers as like an audience kind of snack. Some people do popcorn, most people have a drink, or crisps or something like that. But some people had matchmakers, mint/orange. And then my brother overheard a member of the audience saying to the person they were with, "I don't think my chuckle muscle can stand any more."
I am guessing that you were somewhere south and west of where I'm sitting right now, and that there was a Waitrose nearby.
Definitely was. It was actually probably about a 5-minute walk to the Waitrose. So yes, indeed, it was Farnham in Surrey. So yes, but it just gives you an idea that she had the audience there in the palm of her hand with her stand up, with her voiceovers that she did live. Yeah, so funny. So I'm so glad that I went and saw it, and actually it was very poignant as well, because the whole show opened up with that montage video.
Hold on. Quick point. I was going to say, the question I have for you is, she writes about her last tour in the book, probably as she's doing it, and she says that the show opened with a montage of, almost what you want to have played at your funeral about yourself. What was that bit like?
It was really moving. Yeah, just incredibly moving. It was just still images just flashing up of different points in her life and everything, and then she came on, and it was really simple, but very, very moving, because everyone in the room was aware of what the circumstances were, and then she came in and immediately lightened the mood, and immediately sort of brought it to I can't remember what the line was, but she just gave a zinger of a joke, coming onto the stage, So yeah, it was really. Yeah, it was very poignant, just really poignant. It just makes you just so glad you went and saw her.
Mm. Well, look, we've been gobbing on for ages. I know you think I've been interrupting you too much, but you've been talking for too much. We should get to the audiobook and whether it adds anything. One of the things that struck me reading the book, the passages that really jumped out amongst all of this heavy stuff about online abuse, cancer, abuse of a physical nature, and murder, was just the bits where she expressed joy. And I think I was just, as someone who'd come to her completely cold, I just, the little passages where she expressed joy. She's one of those people who clearly was gripping onto life quite hard. So here's a little clip about first time she went to New York.
I fell in love with New York the very first time I saw it. How incredible it was to walk down Fifth Avenue and through Central Park and see all the sights I had grown up with on TV. To walk round Times Square at 2 a.m, drinking coffee shops, eat New York-style pizza. I saw cops chasing cars. I rode the subway, I took buses. The city was full of noise and smells and was everything I hoped it would be. Unfortunately, New York didn't love me quite as much at that point. I managed to get an open spot at Pip's Comedy Club in Sheepshead Bay. There was no audience, just other comics and a New Yorker who told us how to do comedy. Compared with the melodic American accents, my Glasgow one sounded like metal bin lids being thrown down an escalator.
I love that analogy. It's often said about the difference between British and American comedy. And Stephen Fry actually sort of summed it up quite well in a talk an interview he was giving, just saying that, you know, Americans sort of kind of have heroes, you know, just have wisecracking people, and we, you know, our heroes are the people who are, you know, crap and kind of under the thumb, or, you know, like your Del Boys or your, you know, Blackadders or what have you. And it's you know, it's really true. And occasionally it sort of cuts across. People like Ricky Gervais obviously have made it really big over there for, you know, because he's you know, doesn't care who he offends.
Bringing it back to the narration of the audiobook again, we know how hard it is to record an audiobook, having spoken to loads of people who've done it and done a fair amount of talking into microphones in our life before. And the idea that she's taking the time to record a 5.5 hour audiobook when, frankly, she had a very limited time left, the ultimate deadline. I have to say, I don't think it would make sense read by anybody else. I don't think they want it. As somebody who's new to her and had no emotional attachment, I'm not going to say anything rude, but let's just say if you love Janey Godley, you'll enjoy it. After 5.5 hours with the audiobook, I felt like I didn't.
Yeah. Yes, it was. I mean, I think absolutely you're right. It couldn't be read by anyone else. It very much felt, and if you do know her work, if you know her, if you know her, how she writes, how she performs, how she talks about things, then this feels very kind of. It's very Janey Godley, and exactly what you want. There doesn't seem to be any loss of energy in the audiobook, actually, given the circumstances. It came out in May, just after her tour finished, I think, and this was very much. She sounded great, to be honest with you. Things that really struck me. I really loved the way she read the chapter numbers out. It was just like 4, 15, you know, really aggressively.
Oh, you I wonder about that, and I was thinking, it's so funny that I was going to mention that to you, the way that there's something going on, I think, that we don't know about the audiobook recording process. Where do they have to put those files in that marker at some point? Because it did sound like she was having a hell of a lot of fun shouting out the individual chapter numbers. And I wanted to do, if we ever get round to doing an audiobook chart, I would like to take her numbers and put on the countdown music, and you would read out the top 10 between 10, not 9.
Yeah, I'd have it doing the top. I've had those. I'd have that being read out in the top 40 every Sunday or every Friday when it comes out. Now that'd be fantastic, brilliant.
Yeah, but yeah, her just shouting numbers. It's great.
Absolutely. You know what? This was a fantastic book. It was just so nice. I think probably because I've seen her on tour now. I saw the documentary during the course of reading this book, and the whole experience. It's actually been quite an immersive thing. I think it's been multimedia for me. I've seen her. I've watched the TV show. I've now at the same time as reading the book. And actually, when you see that, have those two other experiences, the performance in the audiobook makes absolute sense. If you're coming into it cold, you might feel about it differently. But I would, if you love the humour, if you did love the the voiceovers that she did, the fact she went up to Turnberry with that sign for Donald Trump, all the rest of it, I really recommend you listen to this book. It will literally make you laugh, make you cry. And all those sort of superlatives we often use on these things. So yeah, it's a yes from me, certainly. How about you, Matt?
And a yes from me. So that's Janey, the woman that won't shut up, by Janey Godley. I'm doing your bit now. I thought, as you've done the me bit, I'm going to do the you bit.
Fair play.
It is performed, not narrated. Performed is the highest compliment we give, by Janey Godley. It's 5 hours and 26 minutes in length. Was released in May of this year, but she passed away in November, and the publisher was Hodder and Stoughton. Steve, next week
you got a coin?
No, I'm going to do a thing. So earlier this week, the reason we've always said we do this is, end of the year, you end up looking at your Audible account, you got 6 credits left. And we thought there is no really good way of finding out which audiobook to use next. And I should imagine that leads to people cancelling their subscriptions. And then this week, you sent me a link to... God, I'm about to read out the URL. audible.co.uk/blog/editors select monthly picks.
You missed out the HTTPS at the end.
// and you send this to me, and it's the Audible editors pick of the best books of the month. And there were 5 or 6 titles mentioned, and I'm going to invite you to choose what we do next week. So they're kind of doing our job, but again, they're not doing it in an audio format, so I don't know. So there's The True Story of the Coward Brothers by Elvis Costello, which is an audio mockumentary written by Elvis Costello and starring Costello and fellow music icon T-Bone Burnett as the titular brothers. We're titular brothers, aren't we, Steve?
Yes, emphasis on the syllable,
It also features Harry Shearer. I should imagine that's going in the possible column for you.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds very enticing.
Okay, the next one is Mistletoe Murders 3. I haven't seen or listened to Mistletoe Murders 1 and 2. I should imagine that'd be quite hard for us to do.
Okay, but still intriguing. It's fantasy and romance at the same time in Romantasy.
No, that's A Tribute of Fire. Is romance author Soraya Wilson's debut foray into romantasy.
Yeah.
I think we'd need a native guide to take us through that one, wouldn't we? I don't think that's our natural...
Well, I think as I've been given the honour of choosing, I am using...
Hold on, I haven't finished yet.
Oh.
Next is The Serviceberry, An Economy of Gifts and Abundance.
Oh, okay. Right. I should have scrolled down further. So I was just those two. Okay.
From the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Braiding Sweetgrass, an inspiring vision of how to reorient our lives around gratitude, reciprocity, and community.
Oh, reorientate. Oh, it really gets me, that one. Reorient. Oh.
Yeah, again, I don't think we're... the two of us alone aren't ready for that one yet. And then there's Agatha Christie, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. This is the thing that amused me about this one. So they've re-recorded the Agatha Christie book with Peter Dinklage of Game of Thrones as Hercule Poirot. And the thing that amused me, given your other current endeavours, is that it's based at Styles Court. There's been a murder at Styles Court. That sounds somewhat familiar, Steve.
Well, yes, if you're into your murder mystery, can I recommend the murder mystery detective game Killer at Keele Court, published by Murder Mission and available on Amazon. You like murder? I won't go down the whole presenter read thing. We'll just cut it off there.
I love a good murder, Steve.
Still trying to flog this game.
Sometimes when I have a corpse in my living room, it's really difficult to get those hard-to-reach stains out of the carpet.
Not anymore with Killer at Keele Court, your #1. Well, I say #1. It will be #1, hopefully. You never know. Anyway, we'll cut that off. There's the advertorial now. Play the jingle.
Okay, realistically, I think you have a choice of two. So it's The True Story of the Coward Brothers by Elvis Costello.
Yep.
Or The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie, starring Peter Dinklage as Hercule Poirot. Which of those two are you going to go for?
This is really... Okay, well, here we go then. It's too tough a choice. This is why I did get the coin out, actually. So we're going to flip a coin. This is going to let fate decide what we're going to do. I'm genuinely going to flip this. So heads is going to be Elvis Costello. Tails is Agatha Christie. Here we go. I'm going to literally do this now. It's Tails. We're doing Agatha Christie, dude, for Christmas. Almost Christmas.
Okay, all right.
Agatha Christie.
No, because I've read it already and it's a bit pants.
You weren't hoping for that, were you?
Yeah. Best of three, Steve.
Oh, really?
Best of three.
Let me do it again. Okay, so heads... no, we're doing this. Heads is Elvis Costello. Tails is also Elvis Costello. Here we go.
Where the hell did you get a coin from?
We're doing Elvis Costello.
I haven't seen a coin in months.
I've got one of the restaurants around my way only accepts cash.
Nice.
So that's why I've got a 10p. I've got 10p in my pocket.
Nice. Right, make this all end, Steve. We've been going on for hours.
You've been listening to Audio Book Club. We have just been reviewing Janey Godley, The Woman That Won't Shut Up. Read and indeed performed by Janey Godley, published by Hodder and Stoughton, 5 hours 26 minutes, as indeed Matt actually did all the details there a little bit earlier on. Definitely go get. Don't forget, you can have a chat with us anytime. We're on Instagram at Audiobook Show, and indeed imminently, as we spoke about earlier, on Blue Sky as well, once we get the account set up. So talk to us there. We always put up what book we're talking about next week on there, so leave your comments too. Until the next time when we're doing Elvis Costello, we'll see you later.
Right, before we go, I've got one last clip from the book, and it is it's the last couple of paragraphs of the book, Steve, and it's positivity and joy from Janey. I don't know though. Is it a spoiler if we play play the conclusion at the end?
We'll find out if we get pulled up on it.
Yeah, well, if Hodder and Stoughton don't like what we've done, then they're very welcome to tell us to take it down. And by the way, before you at me, I know that Lisa is in Edinburgh, not in Glasgow.
I am lucky that I have seen so much in my life. I did buy that good wine. I did eat in that fancy restaurant. I talked politics, food, Glasgow and swearing on TV with Anthony Bourdain over dinner in Regano. He made fun of me for being allergic to shellfish. I joked that at least I never shot up skank in the back streets of New York. I did go to Disneyland. I did get to play that venue. I did get to present a BAFTA award. I did get to win many awards, fly first class, have books published, act and write for the National Theatre, see the mountains over Hong Kong, hold my baby daughter after a 27-hour labour, swim in the wonderful oceans off New Zealand, and I got to have tea with Billy Connolly. I am lucky in many ways. The best luck I had was going to the Headland Hotel in the 80s, where I came off the birth control pill and conceived our daughter. The rest, well, it's been good.